All right. BAS podcast number 3, baby.
So what's the difference? Let me ask you this. What's the difference between reparations, which is popular in the news and is becoming somewhat of a political issue at this point? What's the difference between reparations and Black American sovereignty?
Well, I think that's a question of, I think that's something that does need to be focused. Reparations. Reparations and restitution, I think, could be the same thing, could be different things. But the way that reparations is portrayed in the media now is something like a handout, towards something that no one presently has a connection to. That's how it's portrayed in the media.
So okay, I guess what I'm saying is that, with everything that's happening in the Congress and politically with this term of reparations, what are they trying to attain? Do we know?
Who is the they? Who is they?
The people that believe reparations is important. People that believe that reparations is due, that it's owed, that it's important. Whoever that is. I know that Ta-Nehisi Coates believes in reparations or believes that it's important. He definitely knows how to argue the history as to why it would be necessary to look into it. I think that's fair to say, but we don't know what his opinion on what reparations actually is. We don't know. I don't know what Danny Glover, and he was at that congressional meeting in the House. He didn't say what reparations was either, I don't think. So to me, reparations, if we look at what reparations, the way that it's currently discussed, all right, so let's all agree that there is something that needs to be repaid to Black people for a whole lot of wrongs, okay? Starting at that point, what would their version of reparations look like? Well, to me, I would assume they would figure that, okay, these corporations maybe that had something to do with, they're the only thing you could connect to slavery. So these groups of people would have to pay money to these groups of people. Whatever amount that would be. Let's say it's 10,000, let's say it's 20, let's say it's 30, whatever it is. And then that's a one-time payment, a one-time installment for Black Americans, African Americans being paid back for their work during slavery or their mistreatment during slavery. Is that what reparations is? To you?
As far as the connection, it being connected simply to slavery?
Yeah, and then it would be some sort of one-time payment. All right, we're going to pay you this for what happened to you during slavery. That's what reparations is. That's the way I understand it. Do you understand it differently? That's my question.
That's the way that it's being portrayed, in my opinion.
Okay,
that's the way that it is discussed.
That I don't agree with. I don't agree with that, and I'm going to say why I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with it. You don't agree with that. That's how it's portrayed or discussed.
No, I'm saying I was okay. We're in agreement that we both agree that's how it's being portrayed and discussed. I'm saying I don't agree that is something that is important. I don't agree that is something that is valuable. And just if I could have a minute to say, no, I do not believe that any group of people owes any Black people anything individually for the harm of slavery. When you discuss it that way, here's what the arguments would be. Well, my father was an immigrant into America in the 1890s. He never owned a single slave. And what the hell do I need to pay you, maybe your parents immigrated here in the 1920s and you're Black, right? Or you were never a slave, or you came from Africa or one of the Caribbean islands in the 1970s. Why should you get something? And why should I pay you? I agree with all that. And that's why I say Black American sovereignty is not about one group of people paying another group of people for some crime that happened 154 years ago. No, that's not what that's for. What we're discussing is the United States of America acknowledges openly that slavery was its biggest flaw, was its biggest mark against it. And there was really one major group of people that were the focus of that slavery. Obviously, it was African Americans or blacks, whatever you want to call them. I like to use the term black. But that's not where the crime ended. The crimes go so much further and so much deeper, and it's not just from a specific group of people. It's literally from the United States of America perpetrating this evil institution among millions of black people. And then after that ended, through war, the punishment of those people, the segregation, the isolation, physically, economically, emotionally, spiritually, culturally, every single type of way that you can think, did not stop when the slavery stopped. It just changed names. It just changed identities. The crimes against groups of black people, like what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, like anything that you can talk about in the Jim Crow era South. I watched most of it. You went off and watched all of it, but the Reconstruction episode on PBS, which it's a great source for anybody listening to this, that PBS documentary, I think it came out in 2018, on Reconstruction, is so educational. We learned that in the 1870s, just 7 years after the end of the Civil War, there were black congressmen, black senators, black governors, black treasury, people. And you can go ahead and do the research, because guess what? In 1890, those people weren't there anymore. So do the research and find out exactly what happened with that. The crimes don't stop with the slavery. And the United States was either complicit in the crimes, or they did not uphold their duty to protect the citizens of the country that were under their umbrella of protection. That's a crime. And when a crime happens, if I commit a crime, along with my punishment physically, which would be time, I would have to pay restitution. I would also be subject to civil suits where I could be sued. Look at what happened to O.J. Simpson. He was acquitted on murder in the court of law, and they came back and sued him for millions of dollars, and he was found liable. He had to pay that. He's responsible for that. And so the difference between what I understand reparations to mean in this political issue and what we're discussing is we're discussing a payment to all black people for every single thing that has happened since the day we were brought here until now. And the committee should be investigating those things. That's what the committee should be investigating. How will it be paid? It will be paid in land that we can govern, that we can take our private investments in and build up that land, that we can craft the laws the way that we see fit, in a very similar way to the Native Americans of this country. They have sovereign land. They have multiple different plots of land, and they control that land through laws and governors that they appoint, through tribal councils that they appoint. They're not subject to all the same laws that everybody else is subject to in the state that they reside in. For example, we live in Washington. The Native American tribes here have casinos where smoking is allowed indoors. There's not another place in this state where smoking is allowed indoors. And as a matter of fact, if you were even to rent an apartment and smoke in the apartment, you could be fined or kicked out of the apartment for smoking inside your own property that you rent. But you can smoke in a Native American casino. Why is that? Because they are not subject to the same laws, because they have sovereignty.
Talk about the Yakima Nation ruling.
the Yakima Nation ruling. This was just within the last 2 weeks. So the Supreme Court ruled that the Yakima Nation did not have to pay the fuel taxes on their fuel that everybody else had to pay in the state of Washington because of their sovereignty within that, their constitutional sovereignty trumps the state law. They are subject to federal law only, to my understanding. I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
But
Article 26, it's actually called Article 26, is what says that, the federal government has the last word in regards to, Native American sovereign lands. However, in regards to state law, like you just said, they were given those rights, man, to not have to pay fuel tax because of their sovereignty. So, just to build on what you're talking about, we haven't had this opportunity, this earned opportunity. Black people have not been able to govern themselves, to educate themselves, because when you talk about, and I think we were discussing this before, like, people will say, well, does this mean that you want segregation? And that makes it seem like the issues with segregation were it was separate. Everything was separate. Economic opportunities were separate. Education was separate. Not only was it separate, but there was a forced emotional, spiritual, civic. The citizenship was less than.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. So the difference between that is people say, well, didn't you already have that? Didn't we already try that? No, we haven't, because as far as I understand, when we were in segregation, there was no black council of leaders that we picked and appointed that crafted the laws and the governing rules of the areas that we inhabited. That was put upon us. We were told where we could live, and we were told how we could live and what we could do. We did not own the businesses. We did not own the land and the property that was rented out to other businesses. We didn't have any power in that situation. So that's basically what happened before, was we were just put to the side. Okay, no, just go over here, stay over here, make it the best you can. Pull up your bootstraps. I love that. Pull up your bootstraps. When the hell else was everybody else pulling up their bootstraps? I'd like to know, and like I said, Black Americans have had the most unique experience in this country from day one, and it continues to be the most unique. All of the movements that are coming through nowadays that don't really have to do with race, but other categories of people that we have discovered or that we are now respecting, they all want to compare their situations to the Black experience. Well, the gay rights, this is just like civil rights. It's a little different. Transgender rights and women rights, well, it's a little different. It's a little different. I don't know when there was millions of homosexuals enslaved. I don't know when there was thousands of homosexuals, neighborhoods burned to the ground, businesses burned to the ground, where they were literally being persecuted and murdered. I don't know where there were groups of transgenders throughout American history that were being denied voting rights, that were literally being warned that if they showed up at the ballots, they would be killed. These are things that happened during Reconstruction that we learned about. So, hey, we all have struggles in humanity. White folks have struggles in humanity, and Asians and homosexuals, but the Black experience in the United States of America has been one of continued terrorism, and just general disrespect. I don't know how else to word it. Terrorism and general disrespect since day one. And now, what group of people owes this? Well, not one group of people owes this. The United States of America is the one that was complicit in the crime. The United States of America is the one who was derelict of their duty to protect its citizens. So the United States of America, this is really a case that we are presenting against the United States of America as a whole, against all people Okay, well, who's going to pay for this? Well, who's going to pay for it? The United States of America has no problem putting things on the credit card that they find important. Right now, we think it's important to build a wall to keep out Guatemalans and people coming from the Mexican border. And regardless of how you feel about that, we're finding a room on our budget to get it done. I mean, we've got $100 million drones that are being shot down by the Iranians. One drone is $100 million. We didn't have a problem putting that on the credit card. And so, I mean, last I checked, I think we spend close to $50 billion a year on foreign aid. So we don't have a problem putting that on the credit card. Do you know what we could do as a country? When I say we, I mean the United States of America. Do you know what we could do as a country with an initial investment of $50 billion? And I don't know, I'm not great with maps, but let's just say 1,000 acres or 10,000 acres of land, undeveloped land, and an initial payment of $50 billion so that we can begin to create a neighborhood, to create a little town, to create some storefronts, some businesses that are black owned, that are black developed, and then private investment can come in as well. And the governors, the tribal leaders of this new black nation, this black tribe, will determine how that property is disseminated and what businesses go up and what the neighborhood looks like and what the laws are and where the schools are and how it's zoned and et cetera, et cetera. I think we could do quite a bit. And I think that would be beneficial to the country at large, because if we could get a lot of these poor, disenfranchised African Americans from the urban ghettos to voluntarily leave and come to this new land of opportunity and help us develop it and take ownership over this land, how much better would that neighborhood, that black slum that's now vacant, how much better would that neighborhood look? I think it would look a damn sight better.
Which neighborhood?
Any neighborhood, pick one.
So what you're saying is, now, I'm glad we're finally getting to this. We're getting into what is Black American sovereignty. So Black American sovereignty is, Black Americans having the opportunity to invest in, build, govern, educate their own lands within the United States.
Yeah, man. I mean, what we're talking about here is saying, okay, well, does everybody have? Nobody has to go. Nobody has to go. But I think it puts the United States of America at an advantageous position to say, okay, we're going to invest $50 billion and we are going to allocate this amount of land to the Black American Sovereignty Project. And it's up to you now as the Black community to nominate and elect your tribal leaders, to organize yourselves and figure out how you want to govern your lands. It's your opportunity. You win or you lose, but you do it on your own accord. And for those folks that decide not to go, when we talk about crime, I'd be okay with this. Hey, if you decide that you want to remain in the Brooklyn projects, that's your right. But we're definitely going to vamp up and ramp up the violent crime laws in these areas. If you get caught shooting people in Compton or Brooklyn or wherever, you are going to go to prison for the rest of your life.
Who said that? Who would say that? The federal government?
The country. Yeah. I mean, if we're saying crime is a problem, and crime in the Black community is a problem, I think that's fair to say. Now, we can talk about why and how we got there, and I'm not willing to dispute any of those terms, But the reality is that crime is a problem in the Black community. We are the most murdered individual in the country, and we are the most murdering individual in the country. We are incarcerated at a higher rate than any other group in the country, which the government would say we commit more crimes than any other group in the country. Okay, even if we took all that and said, okay, fine, for the sake of argument, for the sake of compromise, which is what this great nation was founded on, compromising with the side that you disagree with, let's agree that you're right. Okay, fine, we did all those things. How do we stop it? Okay, we give you an opportunity to govern your own people, your own land, to come up with your own rules, your own investments, your own local economic structure. And for the people who choose not to participate in that, if we catch you breaking laws that are on the books, the punishments are going to be a lot stiffer. If you choose not to participate in something that is yours to build from scratch and make it whatever you want, and you choose to remain in the hood and sell dope and kill people, well, now we're about to lock your ass up for real. At least that person has a choice. Today, they don't have much of a choice.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes now. I mean, at least at some point, with the heavy sentencing for particular things. But now I hear that. You definitely, everybody does not have to go, whether you are, criminal or not. If a person feels comfortable enough that they could thrive in the current system and they want to, not utilize their BAS status, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Some people could be completely happy with, the status of, black people in the United States. Some people, black, whatever, regardless of race, some people could be told, most people are totally fine with the status of black people in the United States. Now, some people are just comfortable with discussing the issues, but not many people are, beating down their local government's door saying, man, no black people work here, or no black people live in my neighborhood. What's up with that? People aren't actively putting these things on the ballot. You know what I'm saying? And these things should be on the ballot, but they should be in the ballot in the form of Black American sovereignty. How about groups of black people willing to take accountability for our current status in the United States? I'm willing to throw in what I got into the pot. I'm sure other people are, from other aspects of life, from other walks of life. We have the makeup to be a thriving group of people. We just have to get rid of these barriers, these roadblocks that have continued to hold us back and that people act like don't exist at all.
Yeah, I mean, and so, another thought about this is, okay, well, what about all the social programs that are already established that there are, a good amount of African Americans participating in? So how would we allocate those funds? Whenever you get something, you have to compromise. Okay, so we've just invested $50 billion and 10,000 acres to the Black American Sovereignty Project. I would be okay with saying, hey, the typical social services, your rent, I don't remember what they call it, but basically government rent, they pay your rent, Section 8 housing, or different food programs, or different basically welfare programs for the African Americans that choose not to participate in this new era. The opportunities for you to receive those type of social services are going to be decreased a lot. Okay, I mean, there's $50 billion and there's a place that you can go where you can begin to build that your people have taken ownership of. We're not going to continue to pay the tab here at the projects. I'm okay with that. I mean, I would like an opportunity to try to teach my own people, to try to learn from my own people, to try to work with my own people. This system has failed us. And the current system has never been successful for us as a whole, as a group. There have been individuals inside the system that have been able to rise and leave the system. The Jay-Z's, the Michael Jordans, the Benjamin Carsons, the Denzel Washingtons, whoever it is. Okay, people like you and I, we haven't reached those heights, but we've been able to rise somewhat and get ourselves out of the same situation that so many of us remain in. But as a whole, as a group, the system has failed us. So If you choose to remain inside that system that's continued to fail you and you do not want to take ownership of your own future, well, you're going to be subject to whatever they're willing to do for you. And in my experience, it ain't been a whole bunch anyway. So let's go ahead and make it even smaller. I'm fine with that. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see, if you look at the Native American system, they have tribes all over. It's not just one area. So, to me, if we're saying 100,000 acres is half of Los Angeles, I'm saying, okay, how about 50,000 acres to start in this location, let's say in the Northwest. And then we can do 50,000 acres somewhere in the East, either the Southeast or the Northeast. Then we can do 50,000 acres in the middle of the country somewhere, maybe somewhere in Texas or Illinois, where our tribes are spread out, okay, where we have opportunities in different areas of the country. That's the way the Native American system works. I know they have Native American tribes in Alaska, where I'm from. They have Native American tribes in Florida, Oklahoma, Washington. They're not isolated to one plot of land. So I see no reason for us to be isolated to one plot of land. We should have opportunities throughout this country.
No, I totally agree. So, one thing that I feel like BAS looks like is this: private investment from private citizens. And I'm talking about private black citizens, right? And I feel like we should all be able to get our slice. For instance, so, my house is somewhere in the ballpark of between a $250,000, $300,000 house. Let's just say that is what I can afford at this time. So if I go to BAS, I can't suddenly, I can't suddenly run up $1 million house because, basically what my credit allows me to qualify for and what my financial economic status like, that's what I could get. So, however, I feel like, with jumping many hoops, my home that I have in a BAS situation, we should get it should be some sort of substantially less mortgage, right? Like, I'm gonna just throw out a number, like $50,000. Like, my mortgage should be like $50,000 or $75,000 $1,000 toward, which would get me something like maybe the home that I live in, something like right now. Obviously, a person like LeBron James, he's going to be able to come in and invest way more, and he's going to be able to buy up commercial property and build a movie video production and a basketball school and all of that. I can't qualify for that. I can't invest like that. I could only invest what my economic status allows me to invest in. And then obviously there'll be people who have no economic status that will have to, I think that we're all going to be a part of some sort of civil service program, but there's other people who are going to have to dedicate themselves, or their job is really going to be directly lined up with what it's almost like in the military. As an E1 and E2, I had to live in the barracks. You know what I'm saying? And I had to go, I had to report the work, muster, blah, blah, blah. I basically had to straight up be in the military. Now, a person like myself that already has military experience, obviously I'm willing to have my job as an educator be a part of the civil service crew. But what I'm saying is people are going to have to contribute different levels of things, and will have different economic opportunities within BAS. Very long-winded. Thoughts on that?
No, what you're speaking to is how we structure Black American sovereignty, and the way I envision that is okay. So the United States government has agreed through congressional action, where both sides have come to an agreement to say, yes, this is important. This could help the country at large. This could begin to fix a lot of the very deep-seated foundational problems in the country, and we're going to move forward. So we've plotted out 50,000 acres, or excuse me, what we say? Yeah, 50,000 acres in the Northwest, and we're going to allocate for our first installment. We're going to cut foreign aid in half for this calendar year. So we're going to donate $25 billion. Once that money is donated, it's now up to us, okay, to start to organize ourselves, to take the best among us. The best among us must step forward. The Michael Jordans, the me, the you, the people who can have small investments, the people who have large investments, the people who have experience building things or teaching things or financial background. We have all these people within the Black community: police officers, teachers, lawyers, and these people must step up. And then we've got to organize our panel of tribal leaders that are going to begin to, okay, so this is how we're going to build our legislature. This is how we're going to build our governor. This is how we're going to build our mayors and our community organizers and our police chiefs. And once we begin to build that, we're going to have to come up with an economic structure that's going to help to build up the lowest among us, to give them that opportunity of property ownership inside of this sovereign land. And so what that might look like is, we've got, hundreds of millions of dollars of private investments. And now we're starting to plot out the first neighborhoods in this area. And so we would probably contract with builders. And would it be a Black-owned company? Probably not. I don't really care what color the people are that are going to help to build this land. The point is, we're the ones that are organizing how it's being built. You see, when the United States of America was building its cities, it didn't take a racial prejudice into account. If you could do the job and you had the tools and your bid was the best, you got the job. And so this is how we're going to build building A or building B or street or whatever it was. We do the same thing. And I would envision in my utopian mind that, okay, our contract with these builders would have apprenticeship programs inside of the contract, meaning we are now going to bring you individuals that are going to work at entry-level positions during this project. And part of your assignment is to train these individuals and get them certified in the work that they're participating in. So now you have people that don't have a lot of skills, Black people, that have said, I want to come to Black American Sovereignty and I only have $3,000. Okay. Well, we'd have our bankers and we'd have our financial guys figure out a way to use some of these government funds in accordance with the money that they have to invest and say, okay, well, you're going to build your own house and you're going to work on this work team. And this is going to be your trainer and supervisor. And we're going to take $2,000 or your $3,000 as an initial down payment. And once the property is built, let's say the property is valued at $75,000. Okay, let's say it's 900 square feet or it's 1,200 square feet. It's $75,000, and so now your mortgage is going to be based on that $75,000. And so now, and what is how am I going to get this money? Well, you're in this apprenticeship program, and part of your apprenticeship program is you're being paid $16 an hour to build your own house. And something like that, where we're taking, instead of just giving someone a home, in the way that I understand it, the Native American communities work. If you have a certain amount of bloodline, you get a piece of property here or there. Well, we'll do it different. You've got to invest, you've got to build, and we're going to teach you the way to do that. Now you own property. And not only that, but you had a hand in building that property, and you were learning a valuable skill while you were building that property, and you were being paid as any entry-level person would in this field of work. And like I said, once we've stepped forward and we've put our bankers and our economists and our lawyers and all the great minds inside the Black community together, we should be able to come up with some sort of a system where we can accomplish that.
Exactly that. And we're both describing, I think, it's pretty much something like a civil service system, right? Like we need young 18, 19-year-old young males, young ladies who are going to work in City Hall, who are going to work in the banks, who are going to work in the phone company that develops these kind of things. So that's what I was saying. People are going to have different skill sets that they're able to offer. Some people are going to legitimately be able to come right in and be financial capitalists and venture capitalists and those kind of things. That's great. Some of us are going to come in retail. You know what I mean? Some of us are going to come in whatever this industry is. And, we are, allowed pretty much what we can contribute, what we can afford, what we can afford. And I think about, I think about like my grandmother or older individuals. We have to think about, them as well. what is going to be the role of older African Americans? You know what I'm saying? Those that maybe can't contribute in a work, in a productive sense. But we still have to look out for those age groups too. So what does that look like? Those are those are things that I think about. Not just the young strapping males or the young fresh out of high school ready to get it young ladies or fresh out of college, etc. What does this look like? What does this look like for everybody? Because we're all our ancestors, ourselves, our own experiences. We all deserve this. We all deserve first class American citizenship. So that's just something that I think about.
Yeah. And so, what this is an opportunity for the black person in the United States of America to finally have the same chance to build something from scratch that they have taken ownership over, that they have a vested interest in it. They're proud of it. They've had to sacrifice something for it. We're going to have to build our own community. We're going to need our own judges, our own court system, our own police officers. Okay? We're going to need our own schools and our own stores and our own banks. And all of these things must be built from the ground up. How powerful will that be for the individuals living in this society 100 years from now? How much differently could the black community look 100 years from now when we have had an opportunity to build something that belongs to us, that we are profiting from, okay? And the proceeds of that profit are being spread out to our people. I'll give you another example. So in the Native American tribe here that I live close to, it's my understanding that a lot of the profits that are earned in their gaming establishments are spread out amongst their citizens. Okay? It's like where I'm from in Alaska. If you're a resident of Alaska, their entire economy depends on the development of crude. And those profits are literally issued to the citizens of Alaska on an annual basis. Every year in October, every citizen gets a check for whatever amount. Sometimes it's $3,000. Back in the day, it might be $7,000 or $8,000. The price of crude has dropped a lot, so it might be $2,000 or $3,000 now. But every citizen gets to participate in those profits. How powerful is that? How powerful is that to say, me and you have joked, like, look at all the entertainers that are in the black community. Imagine if there was a black Las Vegas. How profitable could a black Las Vegas be? We already participate in Las Vegas on both sides. Our richest people in our community are going and gambling in those establishments. They're eating dinner in those resorts. They're drinking and partying in those establishments. What if they didn't have to go to Las Vegas to do that? What if they could go to Wakanda and do that? And they could get a penthouse at our Trump hotel. And they could eat at our, MGM restaurant, or maybe Floyd Mayweather fought at that arena once. Think about the possibilities. Of course, this isn't an idea that the casino owners in Las Vegas are going to support, right? The people that own the Staples Center and Jerry Jones that owns AT&T Arena down in Dallas, he's not going to support this idea. How much money is this going to cost them? How much money is this going to cost Madison Square Garden when Jay-Z wants to perform, his album, drop party, at the Black Las Vegas? Okay, so we're capable. We're capable.
If you really think about it, whatever the land of Black American sovereignty is called, the Black Las Vegas alone can generate enough capital to send a wavelength of financial opportunity to a surrounding area. That alone is enough. Many like you're talking about, because, I'm kind of hesitant to bring up the Native American experience because, we've talked about this before. I'm not trying to make no other racial or ethnic enemies. However, the Native Americans have the, prime example of the United States offering reparations, restitution. Now, it was done through treaties a long time ago in some aspects, but their sovereignty, their relationship to the American land is still, they still have victories up in 2019 as far as their rights being respected for them to make their own decisions. They're having victories in 2019. Black people are not. So back to the point, Native American reservations make plenty of money off the gaming industry. What if we were able to do the same thing? We talked about the city breakdown, 5 cities with with the NBA team and the NFL team in it each. Or when you talk about one metropolis, just the Black Las Vegas alone. Come on, man.
Hey, like I said, man,
That's ridiculous.
Especially if we started in the Northwest. Let's play our imaginary game. So, we don't have the Sonics here. The Sonics were taken from Seattle. We have not been able to relocate a team here in the Northwest. So let's just say in this imaginary world that one of these struggling teams, it was the Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings, one of these teams that are having a difficult time remaining in the city that they're in, they want to relocate. Okay. What if they relocated to the black city? Okay. And no, the ownership of the team would still be, hey, whoever owns that team, Clay Bennett, you own the Thunder, you want to move them to Wakanda. Yeah, you're still the owner, except guess what's the difference? You're paying the taxes to us. You're not paying the taxes to the Seattle City Council. Okay, and when that economic boom is brought in, and those restaurants are thriving during game days, and the bars are thriving during game days, and the hotels are booked because LeBron James is coming into town, guess what? Those are black businesses that are now profiting off of that work. And sure, the white owner of the basketball team, no one's going to take the team away from him. It's his team. He bought it. But now we own the land that your team is playing basketball on. So you have to do business with us. I mean, that's the difference. And just think about the power. I mean, I think that could be a free agent destination. I think there might be a lot of players, okay, in this player empowerment movement who say, damn, I want to play in Wakanda. Hey, KD, Kyrie, why are we going to go to Brooklyn? We can go to Wakanda and play, And so this could be a very powerful thing, and the profits that are split up and broken up, like I said, talked about. Now that this area has been making, let's just say they made $80 million in profits. Okay, maybe 30% of that or 35% of that gets rolled back into the project, gets spread out. Hey, citizens of Wakanda, just like in Alaska, we had a really great year this year. We made $80 million in profit. We've done the math. 30% of that, everybody's going to get a check for your 30%. Same way they hand out the permanent funds in Alaska. Now, I'm not a mathematician and I'm not using a calculator, so I don't know what that number comes out to be. But if they got an installment of $5,000 or $8,000 just because their companies were doing well in this town that they lived in, same way the Native Americans do, same way the state of Alaska does, what's the difference? We're now benefiting from our hard work. We're now all profiting from our hard work. And obviously, the owner of the team profits the most, but the citizens are getting the wheels greased in a legitimate way, not with a food stamp installment or Section 8 housing payment. They got a check.
Let me just say this, man. This is a groundbreaking idea. And I'm not a PhD scholar to explain the why or the how. I know this is deserved. In a court of law, in a court of opinion, in a congressional court, it is without question that the black experience in the United States has been traumatic and filled with terror in a countless amount of ways. And I don't want to be the historian to be able to, although I want to be able to break it down why, but I don't want to spend time on the why. We got the solution. We got a groundbreaking solution. And I just feel like black people, there's nothing else that we need to worry about except black American sovereignty. We will never convince the criminal justice system to treat us fairly. We will never convince the federal, the state, the local. We will never do that. Never. Or it would take an infinite amount of time because it hasn't got close to happening. We will never convince any of these systems. I could go through them all. Education, higher education, okay, employment, whether it's really public or private. We will never convince people to give us a fair shake, quote unquote. We have earned the right to be able to take our destiny in our own hands, which is black American sovereignty. Okay. We will never march to rectify the wrongs of criminal justice. The wave that's against us, the anti-black wave or the colorblind wave or the whatever you want to call the wave, it's too strong. There's too many people working in the opposite direction to try to take these on individually. All we need to worry about, our only vote needs to be for black American sovereignty. And in fact, we need to withdraw our vote from anything else. This is all that matters. And this is the solution.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing, and it looks like we're getting to the point where we can wrap this up. I just want to add that this is not a political issue. I sit and we are going to disclose who we are here shortly, but I think it's a lot of fun just to keep the mystery alive right now. But at some point, we're going to disclose who we are. I have a political opinion. My political opinion does not matter at this point. Okay? And your political opinion does not matter at this point. And anyone listening to this political opinion does not matter at this point. This is not a matter of right and left. It's not a matter of black and white. It really isn't. It's not a matter of Democrat or Republican. This is a matter of the United States of America perpetrating a wrong, being complicit in crimes against a group of people, and that restitution being ignored for the end of the Civil War. I did the math last night, was 154 years ago. So for 154 years, we have not paid the restitution for the crimes that were committed. And subsequently, more crimes were committed. And now there's so many problems that were put upon us. There were problems that we developed on our own. And I believe the only way that we can erase those problems and move forward is to take ownership of it ourselves. The analogy I like to use is that if I have a problem with my children or I have a problem with my wife, okay, my best friend can't come into my house and fix the problem with my wife and my children. I have to fix that problem myself. Nobody can fix a problem inside your own home, no matter if they love you or if they don't. You have to fix that problem yourself. Well, this is our challenge. We have a problem inside the black community. Some of them are from outside forces. Some of them are from inside forces. The only way that we're going to correct those problems is if we take that ownership and the responsibility of those problems in our own hands and begin to correct it ourselves. Nobody can fix our house but us.
Agreed. And I think what you're saying was, so it's not the job of the Republicans. It's not the job of the Democrats to do that. It is the job of black people ourselves to take accountability for our own future, our economic futures, our spiritual futures, our civic futures, all of these things. It's our duty to take control of that. But we have to get rid of these barriers. The hand needs to be taken out of the black pot. All of our best work, the profits are going outside of our communities. We need to be able to keep that within our own communities and build, great success, cultural success, economic success, educational success, just like other communities, right?
And let me add this and throw this in there because I just had a thought. So if black people are criminals, which is what we're led to believe, and there's a lot of statistics that support that, let's go ahead and I'm going to say for the case of argument, I don't disagree. But here's the thing. We said we need to take responsibility. Our partner in crime also needs to take responsibility. And if we're criminals, the United States of America has been our partner and complicit in all the crimes that we've committed. Okay, we've been committing these crimes together. Black people has been committing these crimes with the United States of America, and we've been committing crimes against each other this entire period of time. So we all need to take responsibility. We need to take responsibility for fixing the problems inside our community, and the United States needs to take responsibility for how it contributed to where we're at right now. How did that's the one part I wanted to add, is that we have been partners in crime together. And the restitution must be paid, and then the corrections must be made. And we got to do it together. That's why it's Black American sovereignty. It's a black problem, it's an American problem, and the only thing that's going to fix it is sovereignty.
That's great. And I just want to add in the definition of Black American sovereignty, which is the realization of Black Americans as a sovereign nation governing lands of restitution within the borders of the United States. That's what we're going for. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we believe the only focus and the only fight should be on. Okay? It's Black American sovereignty.
Peace.
Peace.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.